I stood motionless while my sister Brianna shrieked with joy, pressing the $6,200 Gucci handbag against her chest as I gazed down at my $1 greeting card, the Dollar Tree price sticker still visible on the reverse side. 25 years of being overlooked crashed into me at that instant. My parents radiated happiness toward Brianna, capturing her excitement for social media, while completely missing my silent heartbreak. Something finally broke within me. Without uttering a single word, I rose from my seat, stepped out into the frigid evening snow, and abandoned a family that had never truly recognized my existence. My name is Corinne Whitmore, 29 years old, and a senior accountant at Pemberton and Callaway Financial. I've consistently been the dependable one, the sensible one, the one who toiled for every achievement in my possession. Reflecting on my history, the pattern emerged from the very beginning. But when you're young, you don't interrogate why your sister receives an inflatable castle with a professional artist painting faces and an elaborate custom cake for her celebration, while yours consists of delivery pizza and a lopsided homemade cake. Brianna simply requires additional attention, my mother would rationalize whenever I mustered the courage to highlight the imbalance. She's more delicate than you are. You're our foundation, Corey. You can manage anything. And I accepted their words completely. I derived satisfaction from being the resilient one, the one who required no pampering or exceptional consideration. When Brianna faltered academically, my parents arranged for private instruction. When I thrived, they merely acknowledged it with a nod and commented, "We anticipated precisely that from you." By the time secondary school arrived, the contrasts had sharpened considerably. Brianna's 16th birthday featured a rented venue and a brand new computer. Mine consisted of a gathering in the backyard and functional clothing for university. Nevertheless, I convinced myself everything was acceptable. I was developing resilience. I was self-reliant. These attributes would benefit me throughout my existence. Then university arrived. My parents had consistently assured us they maintained educational savings for both daughters. When the moment came, Brianna enrolled at a prestigious private institution, while I was guided toward the public university, because it represents better financial judgment for you, given your practical nature. What they concealed until much later was that they had depleted portions of both accounts for Brianna's expenditures. I ultimately secured student loans while maintaining 2 positions to survive. One of those positions was at a coffee house near Brianna's campus, enabling me to assist her with coursework and emotional comfort whenever she reached out, frequently weeping about her overwhelming stress. "You're such a devoted sister," my mother would declare. "Brianna is incredibly fortunate to have you." But who supported me? Despite these circumstances, I persisted. Following graduation, I secured an entry position at Pemberton and Callaway and advanced methodically. I maintained frugal habits, fulfilled loan obligations faithfully, and even established a modest retirement portfolio. Meanwhile, Brianna drifted between positions, residences, and romantic entanglements, perpetually cushioned by my parents' financial protection. This year had proven distinct, however. After 6 years with the organization, I ultimately obtained the advancement I had pursued relentlessly. Senior accountant, accompanied by a substantial compensation increase and my personal workspace. For once, I imagined my parents might genuinely feel pride in me. They might recognize that my persistent effort and self-sufficiency had yielded results. I devoted weeks to choosing Christmas presents for everyone. For my father, an uncommon first edition from his preferred author that I had located through a specialized dealer. For my mother, a cashmere pullover and a relaxation day at the establishment she had frequently expressed interest in visiting. For Brianna, performance tickets for her beloved musical group. These presents consumed nearly a month of my personal spending allowance, but I desired this Christmas to feel extraordinary. I wanted just once to witness their expressions illuminate because of something I had accomplished. 14 days prior to Christmas, I was remotely assisting my mother with an email complication when a fresh message notification appeared. Automobile dealership final documentation for Brianna's graduation present. I shouldn't have selected it, but I did. The message confirmed the concluding payment on a pristine luxury vehicle for Brianna, a graduation present from my parents. The complete sum caused my stomach to plummet, nearly $50,000. Merely 3 months previously, I had inquired whether my parents could contribute toward the remaining $10,000 of my educational debt since I had a prospect to purchase into a condominium complex. "We simply don't possess that quantity of funds presently, dear," my father had responded apologetically. "You're progressing so admirably independently. We're tremendously pleased with your self-reliance." I dismissed the message, completed assisting my mother with her initial difficulty, and remained in shocked stillness in my residence for hours afterward. All the minor instances of disparity throughout my existence suddenly arranged themselves into an unmistakable configuration that I could no longer dismiss. Nevertheless, I maintained optimism. Perhaps an explanation existed. Perhaps this Christmas would diverge from the rest. Perhaps they would finally perceive me. I reached my parents' suburban residence on Christmas Eve, my vehicle trunk containing meticulously wrapped presents. The dwelling was adorned extravagantly with professionally mounted illumination tracing the roofline and window frames. A designer wreath decorated the entrance, and when I crossed the threshold, I encountered the 12-foot Norwegian spruce commanding the living area, embellished in a palette of silver and soft blue that coordinated flawlessly with Brianna's social media aesthetic. "Corinne, you've finally arrived," my mother announced, offering me a brief embrace before returning to the gingerbread structure she was constructing with my Aunt Patricia. "Brianna's been here since yesterday. She's assisting your father with the turkey." I progressed through the residence, acknowledging relatives and positioning my presents beneath the tree, which already overflowed with parcels. I discovered Brianna in the kitchen, not genuinely assisting, but perched on a countertop photographing Dad while he tended the turkey. "Material for my culinary series," she clarified, scarcely glancing upward. "Dad appears so appealing in his cooking apron." During dinner, the discussion centered entirely on Brianna's new position at Sterling Fashion, an entry-level role she had commenced merely 2 weeks prior. "Share with everyone about the celebrity encounter," my mother encouraged. And Brianna launched into a narrative about momentarily sharing an elevator with a minor reality television personality. When my Aunt Patricia eventually inquired about my profession, I commenced explaining my advancement and the innovative corporate tax approach I had formulated that preserved our clients substantial sums. "That's lovely, dear," my mother interjected after 30 seconds. "Brianna, describe for them that office holiday gathering and that stunning gown you selected." Following dinner, my mother directed me to my sleeping quarters. "We transformed your former bedroom into Brianna's remote workspace since she occasionally operates from here," she clarified, extending the convertible sofa in the study. "She requires a professional setting for video conferences, you comprehend." I acknowledged silently. My childhood bedroom, with its shelving still containing my scholastic recognitions, had been converted into a streamlined workspace, prominently displaying Brianna's Fashion Institute diploma on the wall. My recognitions had vanished entirely. Despite everything, I retired hopeful. Christmas morning had consistently been enchanting in our household. Certainly tomorrow would prove different. The subsequent morning, we assembled around the tree in our sleepwear. Precisely as during our youth, my father assumed the role of gift distributor, presenting packages individually. Brianna's presents to the family were revealed first. Designer accessories for our female relatives, exceptional spirits for the gentlemen, and for our parents, a weekend retreat at a distinguished resort. "However do you manage all this on your initial compensation?" I inquired, genuinely inquisitive. Brianna laughed. "I'm operating within strict constraints, but I desired everyone to possess something exceptional." Subsequently, I overheard my mother informing my grandmother. "We supplemented Brianna's holiday shopping. She possesses such refined preferences, but you understand how entry-level compensation functions nowadays." When my presents were revealed, the responses were courteous but underwhelming. My father examined his uncommon volume and remarked, "This appears intriguing," before placing it aside. My mother expressed gratitude for the sweater and relaxation voucher, but immediately commenced deliberating with my aunt whether the spa I had selected matched the quality of one across the municipality. Even Brianna's response to the performance tickets lacked enthusiasm. "Oh, I already attended their show in September. Dad secured us premier seating, recall. But appreciation. I'm confident I can locate someone to receive these." I suppressed my disappointment and maintained my composure. Then arrived the instant that would transform everything. My father retrieved a petite, elegant bag from behind the tree. "This particular present is designated for our fashion industry sensation," he proclaimed, extending it to Brianna. The entire family congregated as she revealed it, my mother already documenting with her device. Inside rested a Gucci handbag, the current season's most desired design. "It retails at $6,200, but we recognized you required something suitable for your emerging profession," my mother elaborated as Brianna exclaimed in ecstasy. "This is unbelievable. I cannot fathom you accomplished this." Brianna bounced excitedly, clutching the bag against herself. "I'll generate envy throughout the workplace." The family applauded and assembled to appreciate the premium item. Amid the excitement, my father absently extended a small envelope to me. "This one's designated for you, Corinne." Inside rested a holiday card bearing a generic sentiment and my parents' signatures, nothing additional. As I rotated it, I observed the Dollar Tree pricing sticker, still affixed to the reverse. $1. The environment appeared to shift slightly as I examined that price indicator. $1. That represented my value to them. $6,200 contrasted with $1. The disparity was so pronounced, so undeniable, that I couldn't initially process it. My heartbeat accelerated, and my complexion flushed intensely. My hands commenced trembling so severely that I needed to place the card upon the coffee table. The generic holiday sentiment blurred before my vision. "Wishing you happiness this season." This wasn't the initial occasion I'd been overlooked during Christmas. 3 years prior, they had provided Brianna with a vacation to the tropics while presenting me with a scented candle. 2 years previously, it was a new computing device for her and a $25 bookstore voucher for me. The preceding year, she obtained diamond jewelry, while I received a reusable water container bearing the insignia of my father's country club. But never had the distinction been this severe, this impossible to rationalize. "What's troubling you?" Brianna's voice penetrated my contemplation. She still clutched her Gucci bag, but her elation had diminished upon noticing my expression. "Don't behave theatrically, Corey. You don't even appreciate designer merchandise." "Precisely correct," my mother contributed, appearing irritated at the disruption to their celebration. "We provided you that lovely sweater for your birthday, and you're prospering at your position. Brianna requires professional accessories for her profession." The lovely sweater she referenced had been a re-gifted item. I identified it as one Brianna had obtained from a brand collaboration, but rejected because the shade diminished her complexion. The labels remained attached when my mother had presented it to me, wrapped in tissue paper that still displayed, "To Brianna," crossed through with ink. "Additionally, you're so sensible, dear," my father supplemented. "You wouldn't desire us expending that magnitude of funds on you." That's when I detected him murmuring to my Uncle Douglas, presuming I couldn't perceive. "Corey doesn't require refined things. She's practical. She'd probably merely allocate the funds toward her retirement portfolio anyway." With trembling digits, I opened the card again, and a folded slip of paper descended that I hadn't observed previously. It was a handwritten voucher guaranteeing that I would assist Brianna relocating into her new residence the following month. They hadn't provided me a present whatsoever. They had assigned me a duty, an unpaid obligation that would necessitate me requesting leave from my employment to assist my sister establishing her new existence. I raised my gaze to observe my complete family watching me, some with discomfort, others with impatience. They anticipated me performing as I had consistently done, suppressing my emotions, smiling, and declaring everything acceptable. They anticipated practical, dependable Corey, maintaining household harmony. "Reveal mine next," encouraged my grandmother, attempting to dissolve the tension. I possessed something for both my granddaughters, but I couldn't move. 29 years of occupying second position crystallized in that instant into something rigid and immovable within my chest. I recollected all the occasions I had diminished myself to accommodate Brianna's expansive personality and greater requirements. All the occasions I had exerted twice the effort for half the acknowledgement. All the sacrifices that had passed unnoticed and unappreciated. The reality struck me with remarkable clarity. Nothing I accomplished would ever suffice. No achievement, no sacrifice, no quantity of being the responsible one would ever cause them to perceive me as they perceived Brianna. I would perpetually remain the afterthought, the safety mechanism, the practical one who didn't require what everyone else received. I rose gradually, my movements mechanical. "Corey," my mother's voice contained a cautionary tone. "Your grandmother desires you to reveal her present." "I apologize, Grandma," I stated softly. "I require fresh air." I proceeded to the entryway closet and retrieved my coat, scarf, and boots. "You cannot be serious," my mother declared, pursuing me. "It's Christmas morning. We still possess presents to reveal." "Don't demolish Christmas," Brianna called from the living area. "You're causing everyone discomfort." I turned to observe my family assembled around the tree with their expressions spanning from annoyed to bewildered. None of them comprehended. None of them even attempted. I've devoted my entire existence attempting not to devastate things for everyone else, I stated quietly. Just once I desired feeling that I mattered equivalently to how Brianna does. Just once. My father rose, his expression reddening. "That's inequitable, Corey. We've consistently treated you daughters identically." The absurdity of that declaration confronting the $200 bag contrasted with my $1 card might have provoked laughter if it weren't so agonizing. Instead, I inserted my feet into my boots and fastened my coat. As I opened the front entrance, I perceived my mother's concluding attempt. "If you depart now, you'll experience regret. Family surpasses presence in importance." I glanced back one final time. "You're correct. Family does surpass presence in importance. That's precisely what renders this so devastating." Then I stepped outside into the frigid December morning and secured the door behind me. The winter atmosphere struck my face like a sharp awakening. Shockingly cold, but somehow clarifying. Snow had descended overnight, blanketing our suburban neighborhood in immaculate white, muffling sounds and rendering everything seemingly fresh and renewed. I commenced walking, not even considering my vehicle, still positioned in my parents' driveway. I simply needed motion, to establish physical separation between myself and that residence. My breath materialized before me as I progressed down the walkway, the sole person abroad on Christmas morning, while everyone else remained warm inside with their households. With each footstep compressing in the fresh snow, I experienced simultaneously lighter and heavier sensations. Lighter, because I had finally advocated for myself. Heavier because of the sorrow settling into my chest. I walked past residences embellished with illumination and inflatable holiday figures. Through windows, I glimpsed other families revealing presents, laughing, celebrating together. The existence I believed I possessed. The existence I continued hoping would materialize if I simply tried sufficiently, simply achieved sufficiently, simply contributed sufficiently. Without intending to, I discovered myself tracing a path I had traversed countless times during childhood and adolescence. Past the elementary institution where instructors had commended my academic accomplishments, while my parents concentrated on Brianna's participation in the school production. Past the secondary school track where I had established a regional record in the 400-meter sprint, an event my parents had missed because Brianna had developed an illness that day. Past the public library where I had invested innumerable hours studying while Brianna received private instruction at home. I ultimately halted at Riverside Park, the modest community green space where I had retreated whenever I required contemplation as a teenager. To my surprise, someone already occupied the location. An elderly woman seated alone on a bench that had been cleared of snow. She raised her gaze as I approached, her face marked by years, but her eyes keen and compassionate. "Escaping household difficulties as well?" she inquired with an understanding smile. I hesitated, then positioned myself at the opposite end of the bench. "Is it that apparent?" "Only a single reason people find themselves isolated in parks on Christmas morning," she replied. "I'm Vivienne, incidentally." "Corinne," I responded, surprising myself by adding, "I just departed from my family's Christmas." Instead of appearing shocked or critical, Vivienne nodded. Occasionally that represents the healthiest action available. I invested 20 years attempting to satisfy a family that was never going to value me before I acquired that understanding. For the subsequent hour, as snowflakes periodically drifted around us, Vivienne shared her account of establishing boundaries with harmful family members and constructing an existence filled with chosen family instead. She spoke about the guilt she initially experienced, the attempts her family made to draw her back, and the liberation she eventually discovered. The most challenging aspect involves accepting that they may never transform, she explained. But you can transform how you respond to them, what you accept from them, and what function they fulfill in your existence. As we conversed, my phone vibrated repeatedly in my pocket. I ultimately retrieved it to observe 17 text messages and 5 missed calls. Not a single one expressed concern for my condition. From Mom, "You're humiliating us before the family. Return immediately." From Dad, "Your conduct is entirely inappropriate. We raised you superior to this." From Brianna, "Excellent method of making Christmas entirely about yourself for once. Mom's weeping now. Are you satisfied?" And then, most revealingly, another message from Brianna with an image attached. In it, she was pouting dramatically while displaying her new Gucci bag. The message read, "Since you're behaving so dramatically about your Christmas present, could you lend me $800 for rent next month? I expended my savings on everyone's presents, and my initial paycheck doesn't cover everything." I displayed the message to Vivienne, who shook her head in disbelief. "The audacity," she remarked. "But you perceive what's occurring, correct? She's demonstrating precisely your value to her. She believes you exist to satisfy her requirements. They all do. I've consistently been the dependable one," I stated quietly, the truth of it settling into my core. The support structure, the safety mechanism. Never the one who required or deserved support myself. "So what will you do presently?" Vivienne inquired. I contemplated my alternatives. I could return, apologize for creating a disturbance, and fall back into the identical patterns that had defined my entire existence. Or I could do something different. Something for myself. I scrolled through my contacts and called my closest friend from university, Mallory, who resided approximately 2 hours distant. "Mallory, it's Corinne. I understand it's Christmas, and this is entirely unexpected, but I just departed from my family, and I'm seated in a park with no vehicle, and nowhere to proceed." Before I could even complete explaining, Mallory interrupted. "Send me your location. I'm departing immediately." When I disconnected, tears filled my eyes for the first occasion that day. "That," remarked Vivienne, gesturing toward my phone, "is what family is supposed to resemble." She rose, brushing snow from her coat. "I should return to my partner and our dogs. We maintain a quiet Christmas tradition of takeout and classic films." She hesitated, then added, "You'd be welcome to join us if your friend doesn't arrive." I thanked her, but assured her Mallory would come. We exchanged phone numbers, promising to meet for coffee sometime following the holidays. As Vivienne walked away, she turned back once. 29 years represents an extended duration occupying second position, Corey, but you possess so many additional years ahead to prioritize yourself. Mallory arrived at the park 90 minutes later, leaping from her vehicle and enveloping me in a fierce embrace before I could even rise from the bench. "I've been anticipating this day for years," she declared as we drove away from my hometown. "I'm simply sorry it needed to occur on Christmas." Mallory had been witnessing my family's treatment of me since university, consistently gently suggesting that it wasn't normal or healthy, but never pressing when I defended them. Now, as I explained everything that had transpired that morning, she listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding as if pieces were finally connecting. "You're remaining with us through New Year's," she declared. "Non-negotiable. Nathan is already preparing the guest room and his parents are excited to have you for dinner tonight." That's how I discovered myself celebrating Christmas with Mallory's family, who welcomed me without question and included me in their traditions as if I had always belonged among them. They inquired about my promotion, congratulated me genuinely, and even possessed a small present for me, a tradition they maintained for all of Nathan's and Mallory's close friends. It was during those quiet days in Mallory's guest room, surrounded by authentic warmth and caring, that I reached a decision. I required professional assistance to process 29 years of family dynamics and learn how to establish healthier patterns. When I returned to my apartment following the New Year, My initial action was searching for therapists who specialized in family trauma and boundary setting. By February, I was positioned across from Dr. Helena Marsh, a compassionate but direct woman who helped me perceive my family situation with fresh clarity. What you're describing represents a classic golden child, contrasted with scapegoat dynamic, she explained during our third session. Your sister was designated as the exceptional one who could commit no errors, while you were cast as the self-sufficient one who required nothing. Neither role is healthy, and both serve to maintain your parents' preferred family narrative. But why? I inquired. Why would they construct things that way? Sometimes it concerns the parents' own unresolved difficulties, Dr. Marsh explained. Sometimes it involves which child better reflects the image they wish to project to society. Often parents don't even recognize they're doing it. But intentional or not, the damage is genuine. Over the subsequent weeks, I commenced implementing modest but significant boundaries. I declined the weekly Sunday family dinners I had been attending faithfully for years. I permitted my parents' calls to proceed to voicemail, sometimes returning them when I felt emotionally prepared, rather than abandoning everything to respond immediately. I ceased answering Brianna's financially manipulative messages altogether. The reactions were precisely as Dr. Marsh had anticipated. First arrived the guilt attempts. I suppose your family simply isn't a priority anymore. Mom, we're not becoming any younger, you understand. Someday you'll regret this time apart. Dad. When that proved ineffective, they attempted love flooding. We miss our exceptional daughters tremendously. Dad purchased tickets to that performance you mentioned wanting to attend. Mom. Then arrived the intermediaries, family members recruited to reach out on their behalf. Your mother is genuinely wounded by your distance lately. Whatever is occurring, can't you simply apologize and progress forward? Aunt Patricia. Throughout everything, I maintained my boundaries calmly and consistently, precisely as Dr. Marsh had counseled. I joined a support group for adult children of emotionally immature parents. I reconnected with old friends I had lost contact with because my family had demanded so much of my time and energy. I commenced investing in myself, enrolling in a photography course I had always been interested in, and planning a solo journey to Portland. My apartment, once a Spartan space that reflected my practical nature, gradually transformed into a home that expressed my actual preferences and interests. I painted an accent wall-deep emerald, hung artwork that resonated with me, purchased the slightly expensive bedding that made me feel luxurious every evening. With each modest change, I felt more like myself, a self I was just beginning to know after years of contorting to fit the role I had been assigned in my family. 3 months following Christmas, I was scrolling through social media when I observed a post from my father that caused my stomach to drop. An announcement that they were selling their vacation cabin in the mountains, the single location from my childhood that contained purely joyful memories for me. The property they had consistently told both Brianna and me would be partially yours someday. A promise I had actually believed. The caption explained the reasoning. Excited to help finance our beautiful daughter's dream destination wedding in Santorini this autumn. Every father desires to provide his daughter the perfect day. I contacted Dr. Marsh immediately and scheduled an emergency session. I believed I was progressing, I told her, pacing her office. But this feels like I've been struck forcefully all over again. You are progressing, she assured me. The fact that you're experiencing the pain rather than suppressing it represents progress. The fact that you recognize this as another example of the pattern, rather than making excuses for them, represents progress. But what do I do presently? Do I confront them? Do I simply release it? Dr. Marsh considered carefully before responding. What do you desire to do? The question halted me abruptly. What did I desire? For so long, what I desired hadn't even been a consideration. I had accepted whatever was offered, grateful for any fragments of attention or affection. I desire them to perceive what they've accomplished, I stated finally. Not so they'll experience guilt, but so they'll comprehend why circumstances must transform. I desire the opportunity to express my truth even if they never accept it. Dr. Marsh nodded. Then perhaps it's time for a controlled confrontation. But this time, you'll be prepared, and you won't be isolated. 2 days later, I received a message from my father. Family meeting at our residence this Saturday at 2. Your presence is required. This distance has continued long enough. It was the opportunity I had been awaiting. With Dr. Marsh's assistance, I prepared thoroughly. We rehearsed different scenarios. I documented talking points and specific examples of the pattern I desired to address. I arranged for Mallory to drive with me and remain outside as moral support. What I wasn't prepared for was arriving at my parents' residence to discover not just them and Brianna, but my grandparents, 2 aunts, an uncle, and 3 cousins all positioned in the living area, arranged like a tribunal. "What is this?" I inquired, stopping in the doorway. "We're all concerned about you," my mother declared, her voice syrupy with false concern. "We desired everyone present to help you perceive how your behavior is affecting the entire family." Brianna was positioned beside my mother on the sofa, her eyes reddened and puffy as if she had been weeping. "We simply desire our sister and daughter back," she sniffled. My father gestured toward an isolated chair positioned to face everyone else. "Have a seat, Corey. We all need to converse." For a brief instant, I considered departing again. This wasn't a family meeting. It was an ambush. But I remembered what Dr. Marsh and I had discussed. This was my opportunity to speak my truth regardless of whether they were prepared to receive it. I retrieved my phone and messaged Mallory. "They brought the entire family. I might require you sooner than anticipated." Then I positioned myself in the designated chair, meeting their united front with calm determination. "Before we commence," I stated, "I'd like to comprehend what exactly we're discussing today." My father cleared his throat. "Your recent behavior, your distance from the family, your hostility toward your sister, and your apparent ingratitude for everything we've accomplished for you." Brianna sniffed loudly. "You've been so envious and resentful lately. I can't even enjoy my success because you make everything so difficult. We've been cataloging all the sacrifices we've made for you over the years," my mother added, lifting a notebook. "University tuition, orthodontics, summer programs, your first vehicle. We've invested so much in you, Corey." I observed the faces around the room. Some, like my grandfather and younger cousin, appeared uncomfortable with this approach. Others, like Aunt Patricia, were nodding along with my mother's words. "I appreciate you sharing your perspective," I stated carefully. "Would you be willing to receive mine?" "Of course," my father declared magnanimously. "That's why we're assembled." I took a deep breath and unfolded the paper where I had documented my key points. "I love you all, and I understand you believe you've been equitable and supportive parents. But for my entire existence, I've been treated as less important, less valuable, and less deserving than Brianna. This isn't about one Christmas present or one incident. It's about a lifelong pattern." My mother immediately commenced protesting, but I raised my hand. "You've had your turn to speak. I'm requesting mine now." Surprisingly, she fell silent. Calmly and clearly, I outlined specific examples of the disparity in how we were treated. The educational funds, the birthday celebrations, the emotional support that was abundant for Brianna and rationed for me. I explained how I had been cast as the practical one, the strong one, the independent one, not as genuine compliments, but as justifications for providing me less. I described the Christmas incident in detail, emphasizing the symbolism of the $6,200 bag contrasted with the $1 card. "And it's not merely material things," I continued. "It's about value. Brianna's feelings, needs, and accomplishments have consistently been centered, while mine were treated as secondary or ignored entirely." When I finished speaking, the room was completely silent. I looked around at their faces and observed a range of reactions. My mother appeared furious. My father seemed bewildered, as if I had been speaking a language he didn't comprehend. Brianna was weeping again, but her expression was more angry than sorrowful. It was my mother who broke the silence. "This is absurd. We've never favored either of you. You're distorting normal parenting decisions into some kind of conspiracy against you." "I knew she'd make this entirely about herself," Brianna added. "She's always been envious of me, and now she's attempting to turn the family against me, just when things are finally progressing well in my existence." My father leaned forward. "Corey, I believe you're exaggerating. Yes, we provided Brianna a nice bag for Christmas, but that was one occasion, and we've assisted you plenty over the years. I was prepared for this reaction, but it still stung. I looked down at my notes, gathering my thoughts for a response when a voice spoke up from the side of the room. She's not exaggerating. Everyone turned to observe my grandmother, who had been silent until now. At 82, Estelle Whitmore remained sharp as ever and respected by everyone in the household. I've witnessed this occur for years, she continued, her voice firm despite her age. Theodore and Diana, you have consistently favored Brianna over Corinne. I've attempted to discuss it with you privately many times, but you always dismissed my concerns. My mother's face flushed. Mom, that's not equitable. No, what's not equitable is how you've treated your daughters, Grandma Estelle replied. Corinne has demonstrated remarkable strength and resilience, despite being treated as an afterthought in her own family. And frankly, I'm not certain you've done Brianna any favors by indulging her the way you have. Brianna gasped dramatically. Grandma, I love you both equivalently, my grandmother continued, looking between me and Brianna. But the way this family has been functioning isn't healthy for anyone, and I've decided to take action. She reached into her large handbag and retrieved an envelope. I've amended my will. I had previously divided everything equivalently between your parents, who would then presumably divide their inheritance between you daughters. But I no longer trust that to occur fairly. My father straightened. Mother, this is hardly appropriate right now. It's precisely appropriate, Theodore, she countered. I've established a trust for Corinne that will provide her with her share directly. Brianna will still benefit from what I leave to you and Diana. But this way I understand Corinne will be treated equitably at least once. The room erupted into chaos. My parents protested loudly while Brianna burst into fresh weeping. My uncle attempted to calm everyone while my cousins watched with wide eyes, clearly fascinated by the family drama unfolding before them. In the midst of it all, my phone buzzed with a message from Mallory. Everything acceptable in there? It's becoming loud. I rose, bringing the commotion to a halt. This isn't about money or inheritance, I stated firmly. I don't desire or require anything from any of you except basic respect and acknowledgement of how I've been treated. Grandma, I appreciate you speaking up, but that wasn't necessary. It absolutely was necessary, she replied. Sometimes people only comprehend when there are concrete consequences. I looked around the room at my family members, some angry, some confused, some beginning to show glimmers of understanding. I didn't come here to punish anyone or to obtain anything from you, I stated. I came to speak my truth and to establish boundaries for how I'll permit myself to be treated moving forward. I love you all, but I won't participate in these dynamics anymore. With that, I walked to the door, pausing only to embrace my grandmother, who whispered in my ear, I am so proud of you. Outside, Mallory was leaning against her vehicle, appearing concerned. That sounded intense. How did it proceed? I took a deep breath of the fresh spring air, feeling oddly lighter despite the emotional confrontation. It was precisely what needed to occur, I replied. For the first time in my existence, I stood my ground with my entire family observing. Whether they heard me or not, I heard myself, and that's what matters. In the immediate aftermath of the family confrontation, reactions were mixed. Some family members reached out privately to express support or apologize for never noticing what was occurring. My cousin Garrett admitted he had always felt uncomfortable with how differently Brianna and I were treated, but hadn't known how to address it. Aunt Patricia, initially defensive of my parents, called a week later after reflecting on past family gatherings through this new perspective. I believe I owe you an apology, she stated. I've been complicit in this without realizing it. Others doubled down. My mother sent a lengthy email detailing all the ways I was being inequitable and ungrateful. My father called repeatedly, alternating between anger and bewilderment. Brianna blocked me on all social media, then unblocked me to send passive-aggressive posts about toxic family members and establishing boundaries with envious people. Throughout everything, I maintained the course Dr. Marsh and I had mapped out. I responded to supportive messages with gratitude, but didn't engage with attempts to pull me back into unhealthy dynamics. I limited contact with my parents to brief, informative calls once every few weeks. I focused on constructing my existence according to my own values rather than in reaction to my family's expectations. Summer brought unexpected developments. My financial literacy blog, which I had started as a therapeutic outlet to share what I had learned about managing money without family support, began gaining traction. When a popular finance website featured one of my articles about breaking financial dependence on toxic family members, my readership expanded dramatically overnight. "You've clearly touched a nerve," my editor remarked. "There are numerous people out there dealing with similar family situations." Inspired by the response, I developed a 6-week financial literacy program, specifically designed for young women from dysfunctional families. The first online class filled within days, with participants ranging from university students to women in their 50s, attempting to establish financial independence for the first time. Teaching these classes became the most fulfilling work I had ever undertaken. Each woman's story reflected aspects of my own experience, and observing them grow in confidence and capability healed something within me too. By helping others break free from financial dependence, I was further cementing my own independence. In September, 6 months following our confrontation, I received an unexpected message from Brianna requesting if we could meet for coffee. After consulting with Dr. Marsh, I agreed to see her at a neutral location. She appeared different when she arrived at the cafe, less polished than her usual social media-ready presentation. Her designer clothing had been replaced with simple jeans and a sweater, and she wore minimal makeup. "Appreciation for meeting me," she stated, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "I've been doing considerable thinking since everything. I appreciate you reaching out," I replied, keeping my expression neutral. Brianna took a deep breath. "I commenced seeing a therapist. After everything that occurred with you, and then Grandma changing her will, I was genuinely angry initially. But my therapist helped me perceive that my anger was concealing numerous uncomfortable feelings." She looked up at me, her eyes filling with tears. "The truth is, I've been trapped in this role of being the special, fragile one. Mom and Dad placed so much pressure on me to be perfect, to validate their parenting by succeeding in the correct ways. When you stood up to them, it was like you broke a spell. It made me question everything. I hadn't expected this level of self-awareness from my sister, and it took me a moment to respond. That must have been difficult to recognize." She nodded. "It's been genuinely challenging, but it's also liberating. I realized I've never truly stood on my own foundation. I've always had Mom and Dad rescuing me, making decisions for me, financing my existence." She hesitated, then added, "The way they treated you was wrong, and I was wrong for participating in it and benefiting from it. Thank you for saying that," I stated quietly. "I also need to tell you something," Brianna continued. "I resigned from my position at Sterling." "You what?" That was genuinely surprising. She had been discussing that position as her dream opportunity for months. "I was miserable there," she admitted. "I only accepted it because Dad pulled strings to secure me the interview and Mom was so excited about having a daughter in fashion. But I hated the work, the culture, all of it. What will you do presently?" "That's partly why I desired to speak with you," she stated, appearing nervous. "I'm attempting to figure out who I am when I'm not being who our parents desire me to be, and I need to learn how to support myself financially. When I saw that article you wrote about financial independence, I thought maybe you could assist me. It was a turning point neither of us could have anticipated. Over the subsequent months, Brianna and I rebuilt our relationship on new foundations. I helped her create her first genuine budget, open appropriate investment accounts, and apply for positions that genuinely interested her, rather than impressed our parents. She helped me recognize and address lingering insecurities from our childhood. "You know," she remarked during one of our weekly finance sessions, "I always envied you." "Me?" I laughed in disbelief. "For what?" "Your independence, your clear sense of purpose, the way you constructed your existence on your own terms, even when no one was supporting you. I always had everything provided for me, but I never felt secure in any of it because I knew I hadn't earned it." My parents' journey took longer. After several more months of distance, they finally agreed to family therapy. The initial sessions were tense and unproductive, with my father maintaining they had done their best, and my mother frequently dissolving into tears about being attacked as a parent. But slowly, with the therapist's skilled guidance, cracks appeared in their defensive armor. My father began to recognize how his own upbringing in a family that prized appearance over substance had shaped his parenting. My mother confronted her tendency to live vicariously through Brianna while taking Corinne's support for granted. "We did love you both," my father stated during a breakthrough session in November. "We simply didn't know how to demonstrate it equivalently or appropriately. We believed we were responding to your different personalities, but we were actually creating and reinforcing those differences." My mother's realization came more gradually. "I believe I resented your self-sufficiency," she admitted one day. "You reminded me of myself before I abandoned my career to focus on family. I pushed you away because confronting your independence made me question my own choices. These insights didn't instantly heal our relationship, but they created space for something new to develop. We established clear boundaries and expectations. I remained firm that reconciliation would be a gradual process requiring consistent effort and change on their part. As December approached, bringing the anniversary of the Christmas that had transformed everything, I reached a decision. I would host Christmas at my apartment this year. Not a complete family gathering, but a small celebration with clear intentions and boundaries. "Are you certain about this?" Mallory inquired when I told her my plans. "It's a significant step." "I'm certain," I replied. "This needs to occur on my terms, in my space. And I desire you and Nathan there too, as my chosen family." I sent invitations to my parents, Brianna and grandmother Estelle, establishing clear parameters. No elaborate presents, no comparisons, no bringing up past conflicts. Instead, each person would bring a small, thoughtful present for their assigned recipient, with a focus on meaning rather than monetary value. The day arrived with a mixture of nervousness and hope. My apartment was modestly but warmly decorated. A small tree stood in the corner, adorned with ornaments I had collected over the years, each with personal significance. Simple but elegant place settings awaited my guests at the dining table. My grandmother arrived first, providing me a fierce embrace. "I'm so proud of the woman you've become," she whispered. My parents came next, visibly nervous, bearing a dish of my favorite childhood dessert that my mother had prepared from scratch. Brianna arrived last with her new boyfriend, Spencer, a compassionate special education teacher she never would have dated during her pleasing our parents phase. Dinner was initially awkward, but gradually warmed as we focused on present connections rather than past wounds. We shared accomplishments from the year, my growing financial literacy program, Brianna's new position at a nonprofit she genuinely cared about, my father's decision to reduce his work hours to pursue long-neglected interests, my mother's return to part-time teaching. When it came time for presents, I explained the new tradition. This year, we focus on thoughtfulness rather than expense. The present should reflect genuine understanding of the recipient. My father went first, handing me a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter acknowledging specific moments he had failed me as a father alongside a promise for the future. "I also donated to the scholarship fund for your financial literacy program," he added quietly. "I'm proud of what you're constructing." My mother presented Brianna with a journal filled with prompts for self-discovery, a recognition of her journey toward authenticity. Brianna presented my grandmother with a series of cooking lessons they could take together, honoring Estelle's love of culinary arts and family connection. When my turn came, I presented my parents with a framed family photograph I had discovered and restored from a rare day when we had all been genuinely happy together. "A reminder of what's possible," I stated, "and worth working toward." The final surprise came from Brianna. She handed me a familiar designer shopping bag. Inside was the Gucci handbag from last Christmas. "I can't accept this," I stated immediately. "It's not a present," she explained. "It's a request. I haven't used it once because every time I observe it, I remember how much it wounded you. I thought maybe you could auction it for your program. Transform something painful into something positive." The suggestion was perfect. A symbolic transformation of what had once represented inequality into a resource for helping others achieve independence. Later that evening, after everyone had departed and I was tidying up, I reflected on the year's journey. The auction of Brianna's Gucci bag ultimately raised sufficient funds to support 3 complete scholarships for my program. My relationship with my family remained a work in progress, but constructed on more honest foundations. Most importantly, I had discovered my own worth independent of anyone else's validation or comparison. I retrieved the $1 card from last Christmas, which I had kept as a reminder, and positioned it alongside the thank you notes from my first class of financial literacy graduates. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. One represented a lifetime of being undervalued. The others represented the value I had created by finally valuing myself. True worth, I had learned, doesn't originate from designer labels or family approval. It originates from self-respect, healthy boundaries, and the courage to speak your truth, even when no one is prepared to receive it. Sometimes walking away represents the first step toward something superior, something genuine. And sometimes what you leave behind creates space for everything you deserve to discover. Have you ever had to walk away from a relationship or situation that wasn't serving you, even when it was difficult? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening. And remember, you deserve to be valued not just for what you give, but simply for who you are.